Okay, so it's Wednesday again, so we're going to be doing this YouTube live thing. Um, Today, I'm going to actually do something that I've never done before that lots of folks have done in wood turning. It's amazing I've gone this long and not made one. But I'm going to actually make a mallet. And I'm not just going to make any mallet. I'm going to use the same techniques that we used to make the square turn boxes to make a square turned head for my mallet. So I'm going to be using this chunk of maple here, hard maple, and I'll be using a bit of this cherry. Probably really should have cut that down before we started, but you know, it's all good. I don't really know. I don't really have a plan for this, so we're gonna kind of do this as we go. But first, I'm gonna step off camera for a sec and go cut this down to a more reasonable length. Obviously, I don't need to handle that long. So I'm going to go do that, and then I'm going to be right back. Left a bunch of junk on my bandsaw. Let me clear all that junk out. All right. I'm going to take a little slice here. See, from that side. That looks good. All right, so I took care of that. All right. So I took care of that. So now this is more reasonable sized. And these are going to be my two pieces of wood that we're going to use today to make our little project. And for those of you that are wondering, let's see, this maple block's about 3 inches, a little more than 3 inches square. And the handle blank is about 1.75 inches square. So, like I said, I don't really have a plan for this. I'm kind of going to wing it, and we're going to see where we end up. I do want to, let's see if I can find this thing. I bought a new jig. As big as it is, you'd think it'd be hard to lose it. But I bought a new jig that I want to try out today. Give me 1 second, try to find that thing. Ah, got it. Okay. So, I bought this thing, which is the one-way drill wizard, I think it is. Yeah. So, I'm gonna play with this today. So I'm gonna try to do this whole project on the lathe with the help of this puppy right here. This will be the first time I got to use it. I've had this thing probably 6 or 7 months, and it took me a while to find a drill that fit, but I finally got one. And now that I got one, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it out today. So anyway, enough jawing. Let me get a pencil, and we'll start laying this puppy out. So let's do a little switcheroo here. How you doing, Hodgepodge? Welcome. Welcome to everybody else welcome to everybody else that's joining us tonight. All right, I'm gonna clear some stuff out of the way here. I actually cleaned the lathe off, sorta. I didn't clean under it. Floor's all messy, but anyway. So first thing we're gonna do is we are going to we're gonna find relative center on the blank for the head of the mallet. Okay. This blank is actually not square, and that's okay, I think. And I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is round it up. You know, make it, oops, I'm going to make it round. And I'm going to actually use this opportunity to talk to you guys about some of the things that I've learned about this square turned off axis situation, about getting things done accurately so that everything lines up when you're all done. Because I've learned a few things having done this. I think I made like 10, 11 of those boxes. And I've learned quite a few things. See if we can talk about some of those today. So the first thing is we want to make sure that we use an awl of some kind. The sharper it is, the better. I have two. I have this one right here, which is something you find like in the hardware store with the screwdrivers. But I find that this point's not nearly as sharp, and it can be more difficult to locate center accurately. I find that this one, this little Japanese one, I only say that because on the package that's what it said, but I got it from Woodcraft. I remember it was pretty inexpensive too, but you want one that's good and sharp. You could take that other one over to the grinder or a belt sander or something, and you can make it a little sharper, but you want to make sure that you mark center before you get started to make sure that you're always mounting this from the same place, because a lot of times it can be very difficult to see where you're putting this, because there's not always a lot of room between your live center or drive spur and your lost my train of thought. There's not a lot of room between the drive spur or the live center and your workpiece. This block of wood right here is just so that I can spin this around without falling between the bedways. So the thing I did learn is it doesn't really matter what size the circle is. So really going smaller is better, because in that way you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about your points falling outside of where you want them to be. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay. Now one thing I am going to do is because of the fact that this blank was not really square, I'm kind of suspecting that maybe these points may not be square to each other. I might be wrong on that, but I'm going to check them anyway. So I'm going to get a drafting square, and I'm going to look at that right now. I know I'm doing a lot of talking about processes here, but this is just, just some of the things, like I said, that I picked up in the process of making all those things. And these are, these little considerations are things that have helped me to get better results through the process of doing these off-axis things. So this is a drafting square. You can get these from the art supply store. I think I bought a bunch of these on sale. But the nice thing about this is you got a hard 90-degree angle there, and then 245s, and you can use this to check a number of things. So first I want to check this and see, and just like I thought, it's not exactly 90 degrees. All right, so that can be a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line, I'm going to erase this line here off of there, and then I'm going to replace that line with one that is more square, because that line I just used it to find relative center in the block. But because it's not, these two sides aren't exactly square, I think it's about 3 inches this way and maybe 3 1/8 that way. So that's where that problem came from. But I am going to use my newly found center mark, and I'm going to use that as a pivot point. Then I'm going to go ahead and mark out center, and same thing on the other side. And then this way, let's see, and this way it's going to be exactly 90 degrees, and it's going to have my point set out in a square fashion. So now you can see, I don't know how well you can see it, but see it was over here just a little bit and over there just a little bit, and now that I have it actually 90 degrees, now I have those in the right place. So what I'm going to do is I noticed that I use this one, so I'm going to flip this over and use that same one to mark this side. I think some of these things are the reasons why some of my square boxes didn't turn out quite the way I had hoped. But doing these things will help improve the accuracy of your finished piece. Oops. There you go. All right. So now that I have that squarely set up, I can go ahead and I can make my points for these other axes. So I'm gonna use my awl, put some indentations in there. In this case, it wasn't too far off, but you know, the better you set this up, the better your results are gonna be. So, all right, so I'm gonna be right on there. And then the line I want is this one. And that one. Okay, so I got all those marked out. I can put my scratch-alls away. I'm not even sure if that's what you're supposed to call these. I've always called them scratch-alls. Okay, let's put all this stuff away. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna get my live centers and things set up and ready to go. And let's see. Then I'm gonna check the chat here in just a sec to see if there's any questions I need to answer while I put all this stuff on here. Let's see. All right. All right. Welcome, Joe, Misfit, Greg, Chili Man. Hodgepodge. Yes, I did finally get my air conditioning fixed. Thank goodness, because man, whew, it was getting toasty in here. My uncle finally came through for me. It only took him like 10 minutes once he got here. Okay. All right, again, I'm going to be using this small dry spur with the ring and teeth. Super important with the spring-loaded tip. I'm expecting, hopefully, I'll be getting the Robert Sorby version. I do like the teeth on it a little better. So if you look at these two, this one's good. You know, this Nova. There's nothing wrong with it. I do like this one a little better because if you look at this, let's see if I can get it to show up. All right. So if you look at this, right, you can see that there's plenty of teeth around the outside, but they're only sharpened really on one side. You got this flat on the back and a bevel on the front. But these teeth have many facets, and I just find them to be sharper and to take a better bite when you're using it. But this one's considerably bigger, and I like to have a small point when I'm doing the this off-axis stuff. Just get that in there. This is going to be mostly spindle turning. And then let's get our, and like I said, I like to have a small drive points. I'm hoping to get the 1/2-inch one, live center also here shortly. But for now, we'll just run with this one. Small enough. Let's get this thing out of the way. Maybe I need to wax the bed on this thing a little bit. Okay. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I find this to be very, very helpful. Um, I'm finding that it's a lot easier to go ahead and round this out first instead of, because before I was turning those the square faces. I was turning them from a square blank, and it's a lot harder to do it. It's a lot harder to do it that way, and I noticed that you get a better cut. You know, you get less chip out and things like that if you round it out first. Let's see. So I'm going to get this mounted in here. All right. So first order of business, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and round this out. All right, get this light out of here because I know that doesn't help. Okay. My usual half-inch bowl gouge. Drop this down just a little bit. Should be about right. Okay. Now make sure you got a good distance between, or you got enough room here between the tool rest and your workpiece. And let's go. So I'm just gonna rough this down. You could do this with, you could also do this with a roughing gouge, if you wanted to. In fact, I'll start with that because this is spindle turning. The end grain's on the two ends, so you can use a roughing gouge. Bring this in a little closer. Maybe just a little touch higher. I find it's just as fast to do it with a bowl gouge, but oops. Tighten that up a little bit. So you want to be, while you're doing this, you want to kind of watch this back horizon line back here, the line across the top of the piece farthest from you, to watch your cut, and that'll help you to get a straight line cut across your blank. Not quite. You can normally tell when you get to round, because you'll have much longer shavings. You can see the shavings starting to get longer. When you get to round, they won't be interrupted by flats, so you'll get nice long shavings. I think I still have a little bit of a flat in there. Yeah, right there and right there. So I'm going to take off a couple more passes, And then we'll move on to the next step. Okay. All right, so we got it round now. So I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to make some marks on here with the compass to give us some guidelines for where to cut. Let's see what I do with that thing. Right here. Okay, so what we want to do, let's see. So when we cut across here, we're going to have, basically cut a large, basically the way this works is we're going to be cutting 4 large arcs, and where those arcs meet makes a square. So I'm thinking, I usually try to go about halfway for my layout lines. I usually try to go about halfway between these 2 points. Start setting that up. And you're going to do that all the way around. Okay, so that's going to give us the rough shape of our mallet head here. I'm going to do about the same on this side. Okay. All right. So now we have guidelines to know when to stop cut. Well, approximately when to start cutting. And it's nice because this little area right here with the torn out bits looks like we'll be turning that away. Now, as far as a mallet goes, you could just stop right. You could just shape this out and have it round. But, you know, I want to try to I want to try to make it a little more interesting than that by giving it this square turn shape. And it's good practice for doing this, for doing the off-axis work. Let's see. And it's nice to be able to incorporate these techniques into useful objects in the shop. So even though it's round now, we still need to make sure that we have clearance for the tool rest. Okay. Let's see what we got going on here. Let's see. So Chili Man asks, is this inspired by J&D Square Mallet? Yes, sir. Yes, it is. Actually, it's funny you say that because he did, and I do apologize if I do apologize, Jax, if you're listening, if you're watching. I meant to mention that right in the beginning. I didn't. Yeah. So Jax went out and he made square mallet inspired by the video I did on square boxes. And I thought it was such a great idea that I thought, hey, I'm going to give that a shake too. So here I am trying to do justice to Jax's adaptation of the off-axis thing that I started. So yeah, good catch. Let's see. Let's see. How you doing, Jeff? All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start cutting. Oh, and thanks, JP, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. So now that we've done that, let me switch over here, take a look at this. So let's get a little bit better in the frame here. So now that we've done that, now we need to get rid of this material out here. So we're going to start cutting, and we'll just periodically stop and check this. And as you can see, this is going to be a lot easier to cut than usual because normally at this point, you know, there's quite a bit more material here because it's usually square, which is going to make it go a lot faster. Okay. It looks worse than it is. So you just want to make sure your tool rest is out of the way, and then go ahead and have at it. And you definitely want to watch your horizon line in the back while you're doing this. I think hang on. I think I got this up a little high. And I'm taking a way too much deep of a cut there. I think doing it, making it round first is going to make this a lot easier. All right, let's see what we got. So we're pretty close on this end. I got a little more material to go on this side. So these next few cuts, I'm going to bias to this side. I may actually taper it down on the ends a little bit. I haven't decided yet, so we'll see. So I'm going to come over here to this side and take off a little extra. And watching the horizon line back there, I can kind of see the cut I'm making. It'd probably be easier with a light, but that kind of blows out the footage, blows out the camera a little bit. So I'm gonna try to see if I can't make do without. So I'm pretty good on this end. So at this point, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and switch to the next axis point. I find that going back and working on finessing it is much better than trying to get everything cut right up front. Because then at that point you can start to really look at how well centered your square. You can look at how well centered the center circle is inside your square, and you can kind of work that out before you move on to the next step, in the case that you were making a box or you were making something where you're going to be working on this area. In this case today, we don't need to worry about that because we're really just making a mallet head, and we don't have any inlays or anything like that going into the end of this. So we're just going to repeat what we did on the other side. Just going to keep going around until we get all four sides done. Oops. Okay. Stop and check. See where we're at. Got quite a ways to go. Back at it. Looks like this end over here is a little further along, so start the cut a little further in. Continuing to watch that horizon line up there. For those of you that use carbide tools, you'll be happy to know I did check it, and this works pretty well with carbide as well. So don't let that stop you if you're a user of carbide tools. In fact, I may do one of these sides with carbide, just to illustrate just how well that does work. Where is it? All right, got my Easy Wood tool, Easy Wood round cutter here. I think they call that a smoother. I'll raise this up just a little bit more. This works pretty much the same as doing it with traditional tools. Make sure we're good and clear there. All right. Move this back just a hair. A bit of room to work. So just come in, cut just like any other time. Now, the one thing I would recommend is the fact that it's a little bit of a different cutting action. All right. So when the cutter comes around, right, particularly if you didn't round it off first, which I would definitely recommend, but when it comes around, what you're doing is it kind of impacts the top of the tool right there. All right. So the mount that we have, we don't have a lot of real estate in there. So we got these small live centers, and it's mounted really far off axis, off center. So there's a lot of leverage going on there. So what you want to do is you probably want to take really light cuts until you get it more round and more into this. Once you get it more, I guess, flat in this case. Once you get it more of a flat, then you can start to take a little bit more aggressive cut. But initially, you want to take some light cuts because you don't want this to come around and through the impact loosen up at your live center and drive spur. Let's check this out, see where we're at. Yeah, we're getting there. I think one of the leveling feet on this thing have worked itself loose a little bit. That's where all that noise is coming from. Okay. All right. Check this out. I'm starting to hear a little different sound. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to carbide or switch back to steel because it is a little bit faster. But as you can see, you could just as easily do this with a carbide tool. It leaves a little bit of a rougher surface, but this looks like something that'd be easily resolved with a quick swipe of sandpaper. A couple swipes with a couple different grits of sandpaper, you'd be in the money. All right. That is super annoying. What is that? All right, so it is a little bit faster with the traditional tools. Okay, I think that ought to about do it because we were pretty close before. All right, so that pretty much does that. So we'll get to the last one, and then we'll go back and finesse all these faces and get them where we want them. I would imagine that using the carbide tools in one aspect would be a little easier because it's much easier to traverse the tool rest in a straight line using the carbide tools. Be a lot easier to go, to move in a straight line if you're, depending on your level of tool control. So anyway, let's get this last side done. See where we're at. Almost. You know, I've wondered what kind of results I could get using a skew doing this, but I'm just not comfortable enough with the skew to even try it. Because me and the skew, we get along sometimes. Sometimes she's good to me. And when she's good to me, she's great to me. And when she's bad to me, she's bad. So this is a little bit it's a little too far out of the comfort zone, I guess, to go trying that thing out. But maybe one day. All right, so now what I'm going to do, if you look at this, I got there's like some little waves in here. And that comes from the fact that this isn't flat. So wherever it gets a little bigger, there's the edge will wave a little bit where it gets bigger and smaller. So I'm going to go by and try to straighten that out, clean those. I'm going to try to clean those faces up. Actually, I'll be working on this side. So I'm going to go, and this one's not too bad. This one feels pretty good. This is the one I was working on with the carbide tool. And this is why I didn't work my way all the way down to the line on the end, because I wanted to have a little bit left for this finessing area, this finessing phase. Now, conversely, if you don't think that, if for whatever reason you don't feel like you can cut it and get it any straighter, what you can do at this point is you can go to a card scraper, or you can use a sanding block, something with a nice flat platen, and then you just sand it back and forth and you're good to go. I'm just going to take a couple of light passes off of this and then try to straighten it out some. Okay. All right, that's feeling better. That edge is a little straighter. So is this one, and most of the lumps are actually on this side. Let's go ahead and get back to that. Okay. So now I'm trying to get rid of this one here, which this side's pretty good. I think most of my trouble's on this one side. Okay. All right. That should be pretty good. Yep, pretty good. And then I'm going to take care of this last side, which seems to be my problem child. And then we'll move on to trying to drill this hole with the drill wizard. And sure, I could have gone over and drilled that hole on the drill press, but you know, try something different. So if you're watching the horizon line when you're cutting, you can see most of those little humps. And where your straight lines deviate. So that's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So that's good enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and remount this centered. But before I do that, actually, I'm going to go ahead and line up this drill wizard. Now, I've never used this thing before. So I don't know all the ins and outs, but what I imagine the right way to do it, the right way to use it would be to go ahead and put in a bit and then line up the point of the bit. Let's see. And line up the point of the bit to the point in there. And let's see, what size drill bit are we going to use? Oh, that's not right. Let's see. I think maybe a 5/8 probably be good. Let's see. Oh, maybe a 3/4. All right. So I got my 3/4 inch bit here. I'm going to go ahead and mount that in the chuck. All right. I am looking forward to using this thing. I'm going to use it for some kind of design stuff here coming up soon. I got a segmented piece I'm working on, and I'm going to try to see if I can't use this to add some decoration using some shop-made dowels and things. So what I'm going to try to do now is try to get those 2 points to line up. And I don't know if this is the right way yet, but we're going to see. Here we go. So let's see. Turn this around. Probably should tighten this up. See, so I move some of these tools out of my way. Oops. All right. Okay. So set this like so, and it looks to me pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna tighten this up and then turn this around, and then I can go ahead and mount this up in the middle. Okay, and then I'm gonna get me a ruler and take a measurement and try to find relative center on here. So I'm not sure how I would go about making sure this is like square, but maybe I can use that drafting triangle I was using before. It's a little long. Let's see. Maybe a small woodworking square. And I'm thinking that this area right here in the bit, that's a little sloppy, will probably save me. So I want to use, well, that's not going to help. All right. I'm just going to go for it. I was going to get it close to 90, eyeball that thing. Yep, we should be able to get it right in there. So then I'm going to measure halfway. See, this looks like it's about a little more than 6 inches. So I need a bigger ruler. Like I said, didn't plan this. So kind of going along as it goes. Let's see. It's like I can do it without opening that up. So it looks like we got about 6 1/4, roughly. So that'd be 3 1/8. So somewhere along them lines. Bring this around, and let's see. Feels good to me. So then I'm gonna lock this down with the indexing so that it won't spin on me, and plug this in, and let's see what we got. All right, let's see. I know I'm running a little long. I'll probably go ahead and drill this hole, and then, I don't know, probably do the handle next time or something. Incorporate it into another video. All right. So now, Let me see if I can switch camera so I can show you how this thing works. Let's swing this over. So basically the way this works, right, is, let's see, this thing here, this lever right here, it advances the drill. Get that out of the way. This lever advances the drill. This holds it in place. There is a little slop in this one. It's an old drill, but I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to do great for what we need to do here today. So basically what I'm going to do is back here on the trigger, you can pull the trigger, and there's probably a thing to lock it on, maybe. If not, I'll just add a zipped, what do you call that thing? A hose clamp. Yeah. I just add a hose clamp later so I can lock this on and do it. So let's go. Let's do it. This right here is some kind of depth stop or something, but I want to go as deep as it'll go. So I'm going to screw that out. Here we go. Okay. I'm not going to go all the way through. I just wanted to get a nice deep tenon in there. Just going to use this probably for like chisel work or something like that. But you can see it drilled a pretty good hole. So it did its job. Yay. So that's cool. I'm going to have that to add to my repertoire of things. So anyway, let me switch back over here. Okay, so I really didn't think that it would take two of these lives to take care of this mallet, but that's what it looks like. That's where we look like we've landed. I really want to have the time to go over some more of the things that I've learned about doing the off-axis next week. So I hope you found some things useful this time, and I'll have more tips next week when we finish this up, and I'll be able to work in a little bit of spindle turning, as well as I will be texturing the handle with the Robert Sorby texturing and spiraling tool. We'll be doing some knurling or spiraling or something on the handle, make it a little extra fancy since it's got a square head and all that other mess. So I'm going to take a look up here in the chat, see how everything's going up there. Let's see. Let's see. Nicholas says it looks scary. Probably the first time or two that you try it, it might look a little intimidating, but it's really not bad. As long as you use the type of drive spurs that have the teeth, it's going to be really good. The thing is, if you don't have a good bite on it, 9 times out of 10, what'll happen is, especially this far out, it'll just stop turning. It'll, if you break it loose from the drive spur and the live center, then it'll just stop turning. And but it's very unlikely it'll come off and hit you or anything like that. So no need to be scared about it. Let's see. Lost my place. And Nicholas was commenting that his MIDI lathe would be bouncing around like crazy if he tried it. You know what? That's a good point. So I think what I might do is next week, I have a couple of MIDI lathes around here. I'm going to put that to the test. I'll bring the stands in that I use for my classes. I'll bring one in here and set it up, and maybe I'll finish this up on the MIDI lathe. Let's see. And Jeff, yeah, I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anybody out, so I wanted to put the carbide in there to make sure that everybody understood that this isn't a thing that's just limited to using gouges. You can, pretty much whatever you have to cut the wood, you can cut it. Just remember that if you're going to do that, just remember the way that it comes across, and it's in carbide. For all of its pluses and minuses, is basically a scraper. And when you make that cut, when it comes around, especially with all that air, it impacts that cutter. You just need to take a lighter cut when you're doing it, so that it doesn't come around and hit that, and then start to loosen up the hold that your drive spur and live center have on your workpiece. That's the only thing really you got to worry about with that. And I don't know if any of the rest of you know, but Melinda Jones in the chat is actually my wife, and she's asking if that a new tool. No, honey, I didn't spend any new money. Let's see. Oh, the drill. Right. No, it isn't new as in I bought it recently. It's new as in, anyway, never mind. Never mind, forget all that. You ain't supposed to be in here. Let's see. Okay, so I think I covered all the questions, and I may have a little bit to answer for when I get off of here. But thanks for joining me in the shop today. Like I said, next week I'll come back and finish this up, and we'll have a little fun with some spindle turning and some texturing and some things like that. So anyway, thanks, and I'll see you next week. So between now and then, get out in your shops, make a mess, have fun, try not to make something. Peace. Let's see. One of these days, I'm going to figure out a smoother way to exit. Today ain't the day.